Welcome back to another edition of the Prepper Recon Podcast. I've personally been buying gold and silver from JM Bullion for over 2 years. They offer the best prices over spot that I can find, and I've never had a problem with an order. If you're looking to trade in some of your fiat paper for real money, check out jmbullion.com today. Ready Made Resources is a trusted name in the prepper community because they've been around for 18 years. They offer great prices on night vision, water filtration, long-term storage food, solar energy components, and provide free technical service. Get ready for an uncertain future at readymaderesources.com. Today's guest is Aaron Pufau, the creator of Tack Bar. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about Tack Bar.
Tack Bar was created to fill a specific gap in the market. I'm sure if you're listening to this show, or if you're like me, we always try to find a food ration that really is ready to eat and something you can consume on the move. And that's where all those day treks and SOS food rations come into play. It's a very specific use. And a lot of those rations, more specifically, almost all those rations are really designed and made for the lifeboat market. So whenever you see SOLAS on it or IMO or U.S. Coast Guard, something like that, it really means that these were made by an accountant to satisfy a line in a regulation to have a certain amount of calories and last 5 years. So that's where all those things came from. And, they're just made with garbage, basically, just to satisfy how many X amount of calories. So I approached it from a non-accountant's point of view, from how do we make it that you can actually live on it or supplement your food program in a survival situation. So we didn't look at it from an accountant's point of view. We use things like honey, which, as we know, is crazy expensive. We use whey protein, oats, and coconut. And when we were done with the formula and the food scientists looked at it and we worked with people in laboratories and everything, we made sure it was stable. We made some adjustments, and then we looked at how much it cost to make.
Yeah, and I did, and I read through your ingredients on Tack Bar, and then I read through your typical ration food bar. And like you said, huge difference. You got the oats in there. You got honey, coconut, cane sugar, which, just much better ingredients. The average food bar, like you said, ration bar, it's high fructose wallpaper paste. Is essentially what you're getting in a package. And I would expect that if you're in a survival situation, you're probably going to perform at a higher level if you're eating better food. And, God forbid you're in a situation where you have to eat this stuff for, 5 days is what comes in your standard box, your I guess it's a 30 caliber ammo box size is which is really, really great presentation. I love that, but that's 5 days. But assuming that you have to eat that for 5 days, if you've got some natural ingredients in there like honey, like oats, some coconut, the protein, which there's no protein in the other ration bars that I know of. I think that they're all it's just carbs and fat. So I would assume you're gonna perform at a much higher level, right?
It's funny because we live in a strange world where I'll receive emails saying, well, it has a high fat content, and it's funny because we actually, in a tactical performance situation, and this has a very specific use. It's not for use when you're sitting in your truck and you don't want to stop and eat. It's way too many calories for that, and it's way too much fat. You actually want a balance of fat, sugars, protein, and carbohydrates. So in a standard, if you were to make a graph, and this is how the food scientists explain it to me, so forgive me for bastardizing it. We have a lot of sugar and honey in it for that immediate energy use, and then you need to have energy throughout the next few hours. So that's where the whey protein kicks in, the flour, the the enriched flour, and the oats and the coconut. So if you were to draw a standard curve from math class, that's basically why we have those ingredients. It's not just because we were trying to fulfill a buzzword or we were trying to satisfy something that someone read on the internet. This is a specific use and has a serious use. It's not meant to satisfy someone's non-GMO business or this and that. This is for, we need to get out of Dodge. We can only pack a certain amount of weight in our backpack. We don't have a certain amount of mass space, and we need to move for the next few days. So that's the specific use for the ingredients. And you mentioned the high fructose corn syrup and the dextrose. We use corn syrup in it to complement the natural honey, but we didn't use any of the dextrose and things like that because actually there are certain countries and nations that have outlawed those. So I figured that even though it's permitted here in the U.S., if some country somewhere has banned it, well, maybe we should do the same thing here.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable that Americans, I guess, will just eat anything. I mean, it can be genetically modified. You can grow corn on in a concrete parking lot here with the stuff that Monsanto makes, and we'll eat it. But places like France, I mean, they'll bring out the guillotine. You start trying to give them food like that.
It's true. And you mentioned about the ammo can. When we did our research, I ordered every food ration there is on the planet, and I really mean that. And I would say, I can't really remember the percentage, but let's say a few of them showed up, and they were always damaged. When I say damaged, either the easy open notch is being pulled when someone's pickpacked and shipped it, or it's bounced around in the box and it's lost its vacuum. So once any kind of food ration loses its vacuum, it's time to consume it, in a decent amount of time. So the ammo can is cool. Don't get me wrong. Everyone likes an ammo can, right? And it serves other purposes as well. But you can literally throw this in the back of your truck. The UPS guy or the FedEx guy can throw it around just fine. It's not a big deal. And that's the real genesis behind the ammo can was we need to protect this stuff because once you break the seal, it has to be consumed. So, and also the ammo can acts as a water collection tool. So funnily enough, it wasn't my design, but the ammo can holds 3 liters of water. So we include 10 aqua tabs. And if you drop 3 aqua tabs inside an ammo can of water, I believe you leave it for 30 minutes. You should all read the instructions. That's my disclaimer. But generally speaking, you put 3 tablets of water, 3 aqua tabs in an ammo can full of water, wait 30 minutes, it's going to kill everything in there so you can consume it. So not only does it protect the food ration during shipping and your storage and use, it also acts as a water collection unit as well.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Cady Armor offers affordable body armor, including level 3 trauma plates made of AR-500 steel. These plates can endure multiple rounds from pistols and rifles up to 7.62 NATO. Use coupon code PrepperRecon to get 10% off your entire order at CadyArmor.com. That's CATI Armor.com.
Get prepared before disaster strikes. PrepperRecon.com offers MOLLE-compatible individual first aid kits for your home, auto, or bug-out bag. These kits have everything you need to address a traumatic injury, including an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, EMT shears, suture kit, steri-strips, tourniquet, tough strip bandages, and so much more. $99 includes shipping. Go to PrepperRecon.com and click the Store tab at the top of the home page. Order today before it's too late.
And then also the ammo can, it's got the airtight seal on it as well. So it locks down, it's sealed out from the air. So I suppose even if you lose the vacuum on one of your food units, I expect that seal on the box is going to buy you a little extra time.
Yeah, well, it's funny. That's consumed by expiration dates and all that. When we submit our ration to a laboratory, they do what's called accelerated expiration testing on it. And I'm not sure the witchcraft that goes on to do this, but after sitting down with these food scientists, they explain something really, really interesting. A lot of food doesn't technically expire. Really, things you need to worry about are things like deli meats, things basically in the deli section. But it's, speaking about if it loses its seal, as long as it doesn't get contaminated by an outside source like bugs or high moisture or things like that, you can actually it can actually be consumable for a long period of time. Believe it or not, a lot of food will last well beyond its expiry date. You'll just lose some of its caloric value is all. You'll know when something's bad. Like if your milk is beyond its expiry date, the way it was explained to me, you stand in front of your fridge and smell it. And if it smells kind of rancid, well, then don't drink it. But until then, it's probably good. And the same applies to most food rations as well.
Yeah, canned foods that you get from the grocery store, they've all got like a 1-year expiration date. And I try to stay away from the perforated ones that have the pull tabs because I've heard both sides of that doesn't make any difference. And I've heard other people say that drastically reduces the time that they'll last. But a regular can that you have to use the can opener to open, technically, if it's not dented, if it's not rusted, and you find that thing and it was expired 40 years ago, while it's probably lost a significant amount of its nutritional value, and it probably is not going to look or taste like it would have 40 years ago, it's probably more than likely safe to eat. And
correct, and that's exactly how these scientists explain it to me. And believe it or not, the temperature that you stored it makes a big difference. So that the higher the temperature, whenever you hear the catchphrase in a cool, dry place, you can go ahead and store something in your roof rack of your car, but it's going to dramatically decrease the caloric value of the food on a more rapid time period. So, everyone likes to say a cool, dry place, but there really is a purpose to it.
And now you've also got a lot of multivitamins that are added into the tack bar. So it's sort of like a bowl of Total where you get all your standard vitamins in there as well. Because like you said, if you're getting better stuff, if you're getting better nutrition and you're in a survival situation, you're going to perform at a higher level.
Right. And, I don't think there's any one silver bullet. And I'm not saying a tack bar is that. And I've even sat around the round table with bushcraft guys and this and that. And a lot of the realistic preppers and bushcraft guys will fully admit, even though they can go, get small game or even big game every once in a while, and they can forage and this and that, tack bar even has a place there because you're going to miss out on calcium or magnesium or vitamin C or something. You're going to always miss out something. And if you're in a survival situation, you need to perform at your best. Your body's a machine. Granted, my body isn't that great a shape, but the food scientists tell me that, we can use tack bar even as a supplement. So if indeed you're living off Mountain House food, which is awesome, if you want to have a nice warm meal at night when you're not, running or taking fire or you're okay with giving away your position, but you can't live on Mountain House alone. You're missing a lot of vitamins and minerals. So even if you want to approach tack bar as I'm using tack bar for a specific mission for a few days or a few weeks, or I'm going to supplement my food plan with tack bar because it is so complete, it has its place in just about any food plan where if it's tactical or as a prepper or as a bushcraft guy even. We designed it to have its place and supplement any food plan is basically what the concept was. And
then you worked in the yachting industry, and you're actually still in my old stomping ground, which I affectionately call Fort Laudistan. And tell us a little bit about some of the things that you came across in the yachting industry that sort of has bends toward the prepper mindset. You were responsible for the security of everybody that's on your boat. Is that right?
Correct. I'm officially retired now, but for the last 15 years in yachting, you basically travel the world and. You drive around in a big shiny target, basically. So you pull into somewhere close, like Belize, with with your $20 million yacht, but you're instantly a target. So everything from picking someone up at the airport, or the crew needs to get provisions, or there's a medical emergency, every single move is well orchestrated and usually under quietly armed staff, making sure that every precaution is taken. And we're talking about diplomats, or just the rich guy that owns a communications company. Let's just say that without giving too much away, we just make sure that nothing happens to these people. They're great kidnapping risks, and everything down to the crew. A cute blonde girl or the overweight engineer is very much a target when you're in a third world country. So, I've had the ability to see the worst of the world and the best of the world, and let's just say that I hope that never spreads to us here, but it can get pretty bad pretty quick.
But there's a lot of people in America that are starting to think that this just isn't the place to be anymore, and they're bugging out and they're going to other countries. Costa Rica is one of the big ones. You mentioned Belize. I've even heard of people going to Belize, and people talking about going to Chile. But you just talked about, being in a boat, and here you are in a third world country, and it makes you a really, really big target because you've got stuff and other people around there are in desperate situations and they don't have stuff. Let's say we have some type of a global economic collapse or something, and you're all of a sudden the rich gringo in one of these South American countries. Are there any of those countries, or are there any countries that you can think of that you would feel more safe being there in a collapse than you would be in America? Or is in almost every one of those situations, are you going to be sort of a target because you're sort of an outsider, not part of the community, and you have all of this stuff, and there's a lot of desperate people around? Give us your thoughts on that.
I would say, strictly based on my experience, that as long as you're not in a metropolis in America, you're generally speaking a lot better off than being anywhere in any of those third world countries, unless you're really in a remote area and you know how to survive. So the same rule applies. If you are where I live in Fort Lauderdale, we're out of there. If the power is off for more than a few days in a large area, we're just locking up and leaving. However, if you're in a third world country, the value placed on human life, from what I've seen, is so dramatically lower than what will generally turn the stomach of someone here. Now, there's a lot of places here where you have new arrivals, so that culture is brought into our cities here as well. So God forbid the power goes out. But I would say I feel much better being here outside of a metropolitan area. It's just the sadness and violence and the lack of any moral or ethic code in a lot of these third world countries is sometimes so disturbing. Like, for instance, I realize we just mentioned Belize twice, but there's a marina we go there. It's called Old Belize City, and it's a great place. Don't get me wrong, but we don't allow principals in and out of even Old Belize City by land. We bring in a helicopter and it lands in the marina, and then they leave. Whereas in Los Sueños, Costa Rica, I don't mind sending a couple of decent sized cars with crew in it as protection, and we've never had an issue. But if the power ever went out there, I think the odds of survival would be a lot less than it would be here in small town North Carolina, let's just say.
That's really, really interesting. And I think that there's so many people that are really, considering that as a viable option, and a lot of people, and they, it's one of those things that you pretty much have to put all your chips in one basket if that's something you're going to do, if you're going to decide to be an expat and leave. And it would be terrible to to take on all of those expenses associated with moving out, getting your foreign citizenship and everything, and you get there and you spend all that money and you find out that it really wasn't what you thought it was. So I guess anybody that's thinking about that, they probably need to go check this stuff out and look up some statistics on crime and things like that first, right?
It's not even that. It's so culturally different. So, for instance, I lived in the UAE for 1 year solid. I was running a large yacht, but the owners of the yacht understood that if to keep American or Canadian crew around, we need a certain amount of pampering because we're high maintenance. So they gave us our own apartment in a really, really nice area. But the minute you step out the door and you avoid the 5-star hotels and the bars and stuff, you realize that you're not part of the culture, and you feel incredibly uncomfortable the minute you depart from any. You're not. You don't look the same. You don't speak the same language. Whether it's leaving the yacht in, somewhere in the Bahamas, even, you immediately recognize that you're not part of the culture. So no one's going to help you. No one is going to value your life more than anyone else's. I would talk everyone out of thinking that you're going to go to another country and feel safer there. You're immediately going to feel unsafe the minute you get off the airplane. Believe me.
Wow, that's something I hope folks will really, really pay attention to. And now, you had to even take some anti-kidnapping driving courses. Is that right?
Right. We're speaking prior to going on the air. It's. I took those classes in Mexico City, and they have a really bad problem with kidnapping there. It's not as bad as it used to be, but nevertheless, spending some time there, one of my bosses lived there, and I always thought it was funny that he would yell at me to just drive through the red light, or if a police officer turns on his lights, you just keep going. It's simple as that. And then he was nice enough to pay for me and my first officer to take some of these classes, and it is brutal. It is. They'll box you in. They'll just shoot the passenger in the head, and they'll kidnap whoever looks of value. Many of these things are not what you see in Hollywood. They're not premeditated. They're not planned. They're just finding the most fancy car with a gringo in it, or someone who's dressed nicely, or someone has a wristwatch on. That's all it takes. And you become situationally aware every time you're in the car. And you're automatically at a stoplight. You're picking out the vehicle looks suspicious. You're thinking about, well, I can drive over this curb if I need to, or I've left enough distance between me and that little Hyundai, and I can push that out of the way properly. You're constantly aware of it, and maybe I kind of wish that I didn't take the class, because now you're constantly worried about these things. So if there's ever that situation here in America, at least I'll kind of know what to do, but part of me thinks I just wish I didn't take the class.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it ever breaks down here, I think that you'll be glad that you have that training and you have that knowledge, and I think that's something that folks have to always being aware of. Is so many things you just pointed out there. Being in a fancy car, that makes you a target. Having a nice watch, that makes you a target. Mexico is sort of the quintessential, place where everything's went wrong. They have no economy. People are very, very desperate. Crime is just rampant. The drug lords are running the show. And I think that America is probably moving in that direction faster and faster, and it's certainly something that we could find ourselves being in a similar situation someday. So I think that everything you just said there is stuff that people have to keep in mind, and if we get there faster rather than slower, I think that it's something that a lot of folks are going to have a hard time transitioning into that type of a thought pattern that you have to be in to survive those types of situations. Aaron, you've given us a lot of really, really great stuff to think about. I think that Tack Bar is great. I think it's a great option for bug out bags, for get home bags to keep in your car. We just had so many people with the last snowstorm up in New York and D.C. recently that were trapped in their cars overnight with nothing, and I think that's a great solution for that type of a situation. And you could be trapped in your car a lot longer than just overnight as well in a really, really bad snow and ice storm. So I think especially for folks up north, they have to think about having some type of food that's in their car. I think tack bar is a really good solution for that. It's great for bug out bags, and anywhere where you could potentially get stuck and have to move, and you don't, like you said, you don't have the time to cook the mountain house, or you don't have the time to let it soak, because dehydrated foods, you have to let them soak before you can even cook them. And then you're going to have to, unless you've got some type of a sterno folding camping stove, you're going to have to build a fire, send up smoke signals, let people know where your location is. And it's a process. And if you're bugging out and you're having to eat on the move, something like that is a really, really good solution. So tell us where we can go to buy tack bar.
Great. Right now it's kind of in a pre-launch. So we have it on Amazon Prime solely at the moment. We're really looking forward to reaching out to some storefronts and some brick and mortar. The packaging really lends itself to being in a gun shop or a survivalist shop or a prepper shop. So slowly but surely, as we ramp up production, we'll be looking forward to getting into some more brick and mortar. I guess the holy grail would be having a bulk out display in, Bass Pro Shop or something 3 or 4 years down the road, but we're just not there yet.
Sure. All right. Well, for now, we'll have a link for folks to buy it from Amazon. And thanks so much for taking time to come on the show today. You shared a lot of great knowledge with us. And thanks for sending me a box of tack bar to check out.
Sure, anytime. And I'd just like the listeners to please take a look at the FAQ page on tackbar.com. Simply because it explains why there's no easy open notch, why it's an ammo can, why it's matte black packaging, why it tastes like oranges or lemons. There's a lot of information out there before you write me and get upset because you can't open the bag very easily. There's a reason for all of that. If everyone should just take a look at the webpage, all the information's there. And thanks very much for having me on. I definitely appreciate it.
In 7 Cows, Ugly and Gaunt, Book 1, Behold Darkness and Sorrow, Daniel Walker begins having prophetic dreams. Through one of his dreams, Daniel learns of an imminent threat of an electromagnetic pulse attack which will wipe out America's electric grid, sending the country into a technological dark age. If they want to live, Daniel and his friends must focus on faith, wits, and preparation to be ready before the lights go out. Buy your copy of 7 Cows, Ugly and Gaunt, Book 1, Behold Darkness and Sorrow, by best-selling author Mark Goodwin, in paperback, Kindle, or audio edition from Amazon.com.